This is CBN NewsWatch.
It is Wednesday, June 24th. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, President Donald Trump with statues being torn down across the country, saying he'll take action to protect monuments on public property. That action coming as the debate rages on what's called cancel culture, where anything that someone might consider offensive can be canceled or censored. As critics warn, freedom of speech is under attack in America. Turning to Israel, biblical prophecy coming to pass as Jews move from other parts of the world back to their biblical home in the Holy Land. We're going to bring you the story of Jews coming to Israel from Ukraine. And on the streets of Minneapolis, where George Floyd was killed, the gospel is being preached, and many who have come there are looking for hope and finding hope and healing. They've found salvation as well in Jesus Christ. All those stories and more are ahead in this edition of CBN NewsWatch. We begin this half hour with President Donald Trump preparing to issue an executive order bolstering a federal statute against the destruction of monuments on public property. The statute is already on the books, the president making that statement as monuments across the country, including those of George Washington and Christopher Columbus, are being torn down.
And these anarchists and agitators, and call them whatever you want. Some people don't like that language, but that's what they are. They're bad people. They don't love our country, and they're not taking down our monuments. I just want to make that clear.
The federal statute that the president is referring to can mean fines and up to 10 years of imprisonment or both. The controversy over statues come amid another debate over what's called the cancel culture, the idea you can delete anything that someone thinks is offensive by censoring books, movies, and more, and destroying careers. And critics warn, though, freedom of speech and thought are under attack in America today. Aliyah Hurd is on this story.
The censors have come for the children's cartoon Paw Patrol, Gone with the Wind, Legos, the Cracker Barrel restaurant chain, and even a ride at Disney World called Splash Mountain, all in the name of trying to erase the culturally insensitive. It seems nothing is safe from the cancel culture movement. Hollywood stars have gone public to confess their supposed sins of ignoring racial injustice.
I take responsibility.
I take responsibility.
They could also be trying to save their careers. A number of celebrities and corporate heads have already lost their jobs for alleged racism or cultural insensitivity. Even the editorial page editor of the liberal New York Times. Another casualty is the Church of the Highlands in Birmingham, Alabama, with 60,000 attendees. They will no longer be able to meet at local high schools after the pastor liked social media posts supporting President Trump and was declared culturally insensitive. Freedom of speech is continuing to lose ground in America to a kind of socially enforced groupthink. Saying the wrong thing or simply not saying anything could have the thought police deciding you're a bad person.
The worst crimes are committed by people saving the world.
David Horowitz, who led the 60s anti-war movement, says the difference between the Vietnam War protests and the George Floyd protests is that Black Lives Matter has real power to change America, thanks to the backing of the Democratic Party, corporate America, and the media.
Yeah, I find this shocking that so many people cave into this. All the stupid apologies by people, and then Hollywood funding the looters. Who do you think is most hurt by these riots? Poor Black people. Who's going to be hurt the most by defunding the police and tying their hands? Poor Black people.
Even some on the left are now alarmed by the censorship and firings. University of Pennsylvania professor Jonathan Zimmerman, a staunch opponent of President Trump, wrote in the Chicago Tribune that what he calls rituals of public humiliation are not accomplishing anything.
The irony of our moment is you find a lot of people saying, we need an honest conversation about race, but then essentially erecting barriers about what can be said on it. And that's not a formula for an honest conversation.
When I asked Professor Zimmerman if America was headed into dangerous territory, he replied,
"Yeah, we're not headed towards it, we're in it. Like this is not a journey, we've arrived, man."
Zimmerman says America urgently needs a bipartisan movement to defend free speech. Before coming to Christ, political activist Tiana Elisara marched with the left against President Trump.
All my life, I was taught that, there was someone holding me down. The system is against me.
Now she hosts the Left show on social media. She says she understands the hearts of the protesters and those who are censoring.
My heart is heavy because I know they have good intentions, but what I'm most sad about is that they are being grossly manipulated to fit someone's political agenda.
America was founded on the principle of pluralism, the idea that different views are welcome. That America doesn't seem to exist anymore. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
An activist in Venezuela has a warning for Americans. You can lose your country. Venezuela has been devastated by socialism, even though it was once the stable democracy and richest country in Latin America. Venezuelan activist Elizabeth Rognoli Otola posted her warning online.
Why do I even worry about some silly little statues coming down or some silly little street names changing? Why do I care? It's because the last time I didn't care about this, I was a teenager. I have already lived through this thing when I was living in Venezuela. Statues came down. Chavez didn't want that history displayed. And then he changed the street names. Then came the curriculum. Then some movies couldn't be shown on certain TV channels. And so on and so forth. You guys think it can't happen to you? I've heard this so many times. But always be on guard. Never believe something can't happen to you. You need to guard your country and your society or it will be destroyed. We didn't believe it could happen to us. Most Venezuelans, Cubans warned us. And we're like, Venezuela, we know what freedom is like. That's not going to happen here. Yet it happened. And there's clearly a lot of people wanting to destroy the U.S.
We have a follow-up for you to a story we brought you yesterday. The FBI now says the noose found in the garage of NASCAR driver Bubba Wallace had been there since early last October, and no one at the time could have known that Wallace would be using that garage. The FBI concluded no federal crime had been committed. Wallace is the only full-time black NASCAR driver. NASCAR's president says it will continue its own investigation into how the rope was turned into a noose. Want to turn now to the fight against the coronavirus. The nation's top health experts are warning the next couple of weeks will be critical to containing the surge of the disease as COVID-19 hospitalizations are increasing in at least 21 states. But there's also good news. They say the U.S. will have a vaccine for the virus by the end of the year or early 2021. Our Caitlin Burke is on that part of the story.
A troubling assessment of the state of COVID here in the U.S.
We're now seeing a disturbing surge of infections.
This fall and winter is going to be difficult, and we need to be prepared for it.
Across the country, states are seeing spikes in both hospitalizations and the rate of positive cases. Texas and Florida both seeing surges, and Arizona seeing a record number of new cases ahead of a Tuesday Trump event. Still, thousands packed into a Phoenix megachurch, most taking no precautions.
The person feels like they don't need to wear a mask. I don't think that they should be forced to wear a mask.
America's top infectious disease doctor warning that this type of mass gathering is exactly what people should avoid.
So, plan A, don't go in a crowd. Plan B, if you do, make sure you wear a mask.
Dr. Anthony Fauci and other top health experts testified before Congress Tuesday, explaining that the next couple of weeks are going to be critical. They also addressed this controversial comment made by the president.
When you do testing to that extent, you're going to find more people, you're going to find more cases. So I said to my people, slow the testing down, please.
In an exclusive interview with CBN's David Brody, President Trump said he never actually made that order.
But just to clear up, there wasn't a direct order, if you will, to staff to stop the testing.
No,
okay.
but I think we put ourselves at a disadvantage.
Members of the task force confirmed that statement.
None of us have ever been told to slow down on testing. That just is a fact. In fact, we will be doing more testing.
All of us have been and continue to be committed to increasing readily, timely access to testing.
Fauci did have some good news for Congress concerning the status of a vaccine.
I believe it will be when and not if we get favorable candidates with good results, we will be able to make them available to the American public, as I said to this committee months ago, within a year from when we started, which would put us at the end of this calendar year and the beginning of 2021.
One of the most promising vaccines moves into phase 3 of study next month. Fauci says he's cautiously optimistic. Caitlin Burke, CBN News.
Coming up, biblical prophecy coming to pass before our eyes as Jewish people immigrate to the Promised Land, moving to Israel. We're going to bring you a look at Jews moving from Ukraine to Israel when we come back.
Before you marry is a bad idea.
Don't tell me there's no such thing as gun violence.
That just depends on your definition of when life begins.
Watch Dan and Dale tackle trending topics that test your faith on the next Faith Wire, Monday night at 9:30. The Global Lane takes you around the world, providing facts over fiction.
What might rising trade and geopolitical tensions mean for you on the home front?
With over 45 years of experience, award-winning journalist Gary Lane brings you the truth from a global angle.
What about the issue of immigration?
World news analysis you won't see anywhere else.
And it's all right here on the Global Lane.
Watch The Global Lane, Thursday night at 9:30.
Get the top political news and analysis from Washington on Faith Nation, tonight at 6 Eastern, only on the CBN News Channel.
In Hebrew, the journey is called Aliyah, Jewish people returning to the Promised Land. Just before COVID-19 hit, CBN's Chris Mitchell traveled from Israel to Ukraine for a close-up look at the prophetic story in action.
In the early morning, 130 Ukrainian Jews landed in Tel Aviv to begin a new life. Many see the moment when these new immigrants step onto the tarmac here at Ben Gurion Airport as the time when the words of the Bible written thousands of years ago come to life.
There has never been a people who have been exiled for so long who then return to their homeland, return to their language. And so there's the prophetic reality of this that's so huge that each one of these people, Isaiah saw, Jeremiah saw, they saw them, they saw this happening, and now we are here to witness it. We are here to be part of it.
Their flight marked the one-year passing of Yael Eckstein's father, Rabbi Yechiel Eckstein, the founder of the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, now simply called the Fellowship.
He always felt a calling, that it wasn't him, but God working through him to unite Christians and Jews, to bring biblical prophecy to fruition.
Although their trip ended in Tel Aviv, the life-changing journey began more than 1,000 miles and a number of choices away. We wanted to find out why they made their decision.
We know that Israel is the best place because we have also our relatives there, friends.
Israel has many advantages. It's much safer.
You just can go out at midnight and feel perfectly safe.
Some saw opportunity, like 53-year-old Eugene.
I know in Israel I have a future, I have job, I have pay.
For some, it was a matter of faith.
It's a decision not only mine, it's a decision of God. It's a decision for my family.
The fellowship helped smooth the way by providing documentation, logistics, and finances to bridge the gap from their lives in Ukraine to a new start in Israel. This orientation helped provide the information about their next step. Benjamin Haddad is director of Aliyah for the fellowship.
We want to get higher the joy and the hope and get less the afraid. But there is all the time this moment together in the hearts of the people, the fighting from the future, from the unknown, and the big hope and the happiness about new beginning, a new country, and a new future that is waiting for them.
Each person's belongings get a number, and they're permitted 70 kilos or just over 150 pounds to start their new life. With last-minute instructions and documents in hand, some headed back to their apartments for a last-minute goodbye. It's about 11 o'clock here in Kiev, just outside the Kavalenko apartment. They're loading their last belongings, and in a few hours they'll be on their way to Tel Aviv, but they haven't told most of their neighbors.
Only one neighbor from this home knows about my departure.
Only one neighbor?
Only one neighbor.
And because you don't want the other ones to know. But why? Why don't you want them to know?
Because people didn't like me, didn't want that me and my family will be happy.
Because you're Jewish?
Yes.
The hardest part was leaving her best friend. After they finished loading their luggage, a last hug and goodbye to their best friends. The family then headed to Kiev International Airport for a few more hours of waiting before boarding their plane. It's about a 3-hour flight from Kiev to Tel Aviv. But for most of the new immigrants on this plane, this flight will be the biggest step of their lives. A safe landing on a new land.
Now I appear in my real motherland. I returned with my children and my husband, and now I'm so happy, so proud. The most important thing in my life.
With threats to the Jewish people rising worldwide, Eckstein believes it's time for the Jews of the world to come home. The fellowship typically brings 5,000 Jews to Israel each year.
Sometimes I think that the reason why Isaiah said that the Jewish people would come home to Israel in the end of days is because he knew that anti-Semitism would once again raise its ugly head, and if they didn't come home to Israel, the only country where there's a Jewish government, where there's a Jewish army whose only concern is protecting the Jewish people, unlike anywhere in the entire world, that there wouldn't be any Jewish people left in the world because of all the anti-Semitism. And so I look at this as you never know when the borders are going to close. You never know when it's going to be too late. And so the fellowship, as soon as we have the opportunity to bring a Jewish person home, we do it immediately.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Kiev, Ukraine, and Ben Gurion Airport, Tel Aviv.
Still ahead, you know his name from his family's famous brand of rum, but his life is one of miracles. Now George Bacardi's story is being told in an upcoming film, and we're going to tell you why he thanks God for every breath he takes right after this.
On the home front.
Thanks for joining us for CBN's On the Home Front, where we highlight what the men and women of America's military do to defend our country. CBN honors the men and women in our military with an initiative called Helping the Home Front. It partners with churches across the country to meet the needs of their military families, from repairing homes to wiping out medical bills for wounded veterans.
On the Home Front, Tuesday morning at 10:30.
If you want to be an attorney with a passion for serving people and for excellence,
Regent University needs to be high on your list.
Regent's award-winning law school doesn't just create lawyers. We create leaders, judges, prosecutors and defense lawyers, civil litigators, and leaders in government.
My focus has been trying to really make sure we have the future leaders we need for the bench and the bar and for society generally.
You'll learn from highly credentialed leaders who are current and former judges, distinguished scholars, and ACLJ counsel.
I'm so glad I chose Regent. The relationships here have been amazing. The faculty have been amazing. Not everybody's called to the same thing when they leave law school, but they're called by a God who has a purpose for their lives, and He is going to use that education to make a difference in the world.
Regent will prepare you to be a purpose-driven, practice-ready lawyer. To start your rewarding law career, complete the online application, submit your transcripts, and take the law school admissions test by July. Apply today.
Welcome back. The Bacardi family has manufactured rum for more than 100 years, and as you can imagine, there are many family tales to be told. George Bacardi's life is one of the miracle stories. He survived without fully breathing until he was in his 60s. Today, he thanks God for every breath he takes. The story is being told in an upcoming film called Two Hearts, and it connects two families in an amazing way. Studio 5 has this exclusive first look at the film before it hits theaters in September. We're also chatting with George's wife and the actress who plays her on the big screen.
But the truth is, we're all just one connection away from something incredible.
Is there anything I can do for you?
You could hold my hand.
You don't waste time, do you?
Tell me what it's like to see you and your husband's story play out on film.
Well, it's a little intimidating, to tell you the truth. We tend to be very private people, but we certainly thought that it was a good story to tell and give everybody hope that miracles do happen.
I don't want this to end.
Chris. We've been married for 46 years now.
Given your history, we're not very optimistic.
Every morning I wake up and I turn over in my bed and I look and see that he is still there. Makes me a very happy woman to know that I'm still in love with the man I started with. So it's been a great life together. Rhoda Mitchell, who played my role, did a brilliant job.
If you don't fight for yourself, fight for me.
You know, I was lucky to play Leslie. She's a really amazing woman in real life. It was one of the most sort of moving experiences in my acting career.
I believe the connections are everywhere. The kindness of a stranger, the first heartbeat of a baby. Is that it?
No, that's the umbilical cord.
The love of your family.
No matter what happens, there's always a reason.
And I believe each one of us has a purpose.
What was it about this story that made you want to be a part of it?
It's in some ways a painful story, but in some ways a very inspiring story.
Chris?
I was so scared. I realized that I was more than I ever thought I was.
The nurses are calling him Superman.
I had a vision. I knew what I had to do.
I think the movie's wholesome. It's the kind of movie you can watch with your whole family. And it deals with really difficult subject matter, but also brings a lot of light. And I hope that people see this film and feel inspired.
Two Hearts hits theaters in September, and tonight on Studio 5, we're going to have more on that story. Plus, conversations with recording artist Jabari Johnson, as well as Dolly Parton. You can catch all of Studio 5 tonight at 9:30 Eastern. You can find that on the CBN News Channel. Coming up on the streets of Minneapolis, where George Floyd was killed. Good news, as many people who have come to the area are finding hope and salvation as revival is spreading there. We're going to show you what's been happening when we come back.
If you want to be an attorney with a passion for serving people and for excellence, Regent University needs to be high on your list.
Regent's award-winning law school doesn't just create lawyers. We create leaders, judges, prosecutors and defense lawyers, civil litigators, and leaders in government. Ready to become a purpose-driven, practice-ready lawyer? To start your rewarding career, complete the online application, submit your transcripts, and take the law school admissions test by July.
Nutrition, exercise, essential oils, weight loss, and more. It's Healthy Living with Lori Johnson.
Talk about what's in this.
Join CBN health reporter Lori Johnson to get the latest information from today's top health experts.
This is fantastic.
Find out what you need to know to live a healthier life. Watch Healthy Living, Tuesday night at 9:30.
Woohoo! Hi, Superbook fans. Here's something else you'll love. Whoa! It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh, no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! Whoa!
Millsburg Falls man.
Sorry, pardon me. Sorry, excuse me. Ouch!
Are you getting this?
Earn super points to win daily prizes, too. And so much more! Time to get back to my adventures. See you soon. It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
It has the power to influence weight loss, boost your immune system, and improve brain function.
We've seen an explosion of data on the role of the gut microbiome in health.
The free Build a Better Gut booklet reveals the latest information about the gut microbiome. You'll discover how your gut affects the rest of your health.
The gut microbiome has been linked to depression and cancer and heart disease.
Learn how to build a stronger, healthier gut.
The microbiome, if it's in good composition, are really protecting us all the time from more invasive things.
Get the Build a Better Gut booklet, free from the Christian Broadcasting Network. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com/buildabettergut.
You need to make sure that your microbes are working with you, not against you.
And if you order online, you'll get immediate access to the Build a Better Gut series, a digital copy of the booklet, and related bonus material. Build a Better Gut today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com/buildabettergut for your free copy.
Check out the CBN News Daily Rundown podcast each weekday with me, Caitlin Burke. Click on the show tab at cbnnews.com where you can listen and subscribe.
On the streets of Minneapolis, where George Floyd was murdered, people are coming, searching for hope and healing and finding salvation. For several weeks, Christians and non-believers have come to the area to praise and worship and to profess their faith in Christ. Pastor Joshua Giles said he came to the area where Floyd was killed to be a part of the peaceful protest, but God told him to start a revival. Giles wrote on Facebook, "These testimonies of the saving power of Jesus Christ are going all around the world. Glory to God, the revival is spreading." He says the revival will lead to reformation and changes will begin to take place. Before we go, it's time for your Wednesday word, and today's word is forgiveness. This is a great day to embrace forgiveness and accept you cannot change what's already been done, but you can move forward, knowing forgiveness is the engine that keeps life's boat pushing ahead. With that word, I encourage you to make today a wonderful Wednesday. We are out of time. That is going to do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. You can find more of our news programs on the CBN News Channel at any time. You can also find them online at cbnnews.com. We'd love to hear from you. Email us, newswatch@cbn.com. You can also reach out and touch us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hope you'll join us again right here next time. Make it a wonderful Wednesday. We'll see you tomorrow.